good afternoon, good morning to some. We always, as always, are excited to be with you today. Thank you for those that are just coming on, and thank you for those who are taking the time to share the broadcast. We won't be on very long, so I'd love for you to share it as quick as possible so that we can move into our teaching for today. Well, the thing that we kind of came up with, and we really felt that it was prophetic today, was that just because something seems to be delayed does not mean that it's denied. Your prophetic promise is going to come right on time. And so sometimes we can, you can have promises from God. You can have promises just in different parts of your life, things that you're believing God for your health, for your marriage, for your finances, for your business, for your ministry. You've been believing these things and, really trusting God for things. And sometimes it can look as if though it's been delayed or it's not coming to pass. And sometimes when it's delayed, we can automatically think that it's not coming to pass. But God told us to tell you today that everything that you're believing Him for is going to come, and it's going to come right on time. And so it's not going to be delayed. It's not going to be denied, but it's going to come to pass, and it's going to come to pass at the appointed time. Amen. And so you don't have to fret. You don't have to fear. And, not only do you not have to fret and fear, but you also don't have to faint, and so I love those three scriptures, that we don't fret, we don't fear, and we don't faint. We know that the God that we serve is a God who is faithful, a God who is committed to the promise. Why? Because He is the promise. He is the epitome of the promise of God. And so we're going to share with you testimonies in our own life, testimonies of those that we serve, testimonies of those that we lead, to let you know that the God that we serve is a God that is going to bring to pass every prophetic promise, everything that He said to you, everything He said that He was going to do, He's going to do it. We recently started a podcast series on the Charisma Podcast Network, and so on that network, it's just been amazing how God has been doing it, and many of you have actually been downloading those. So I want to thank you so much for everyone who has listened to our podcast, downloaded our podcast, and then also for those who have reviewed our podcast. That really means so much. Yes. And so. So when I began to think about it today, I said, there are things in people's lives. And as we were looking at those podcasts and preparing for more podcasts, sometimes we get calls, we get emails, we get inboxes from people who say, pray for me. My marriage is really under attack. Pray for me. My finances are under attack. Pray for me. My church or my ministry or my health is under attack. And God has given me promises that I've been believing Him for, I've been trusting Him for. I know that God is faithful, but it seems like things are not coming to pass. And so when that happens, we have always said, listen, we're going to pray for you. We're going to believe God for you, because we know that the God that we serve is a faithful God and that He will do just what He said. It's impossible for God to fail. He cannot lie. His word cannot return void. Those are some cannots that pertain to God. Some things that God cannot do. God cannot lie. God cannot allow His word to return void. God cannot allow the prophetic promises in your life. There's a lot of things that God can do. God is omnipotent, meaning He is all powerful. He is all knowing. He is all seeing. He's everywhere all at the same time. But there are some things that God cannot do. And I think I'm going to do a scope on that. 10 things that God cannot do. And one of them is lie. Another one of them is that His word would return void. When He promises you something, it's got to come to pass. And again, that's amazing that God is who He is. He is the originator of everything, but He cannot lie, and so I really believe that that's what God does. That's how He does it. That's what He does. And it's just amazing. So at any rate, as I was thinking about that, and we were doing one of the podcasts was on Abraham, and we looked at Abraham's life, and we looked at how for 25 years he had to pass the test of time. And some of us can get caught up in the test of time, man, and it can literally take some of us out. It can cause us to get out of place of what God has called us, because it doesn't seem like that it was coming to pass. It's delayed. His stuff was delayed. It was delayed 25 years. Now, some of our stuff is delayed. It gets delayed a month or two, or gets delayed a day or two, and we have a fit. Imagine ordering something, especially in today's society. Imagine ordering something from Amazon, and it says that, you choose and ask for expedited delivery. And so when you ask for the expedited delivery, it doesn't come in the time that you expected it. You know what we do? We call Amazon, we call the post office, we want a tracking number. Oh Lord, let me go here. There are times when people have ordered products from us, and sometimes it seemed like the product wasn't coming, and for whatever reason, and then people automatically get nervous because we live in a society where we expect everything to come automatically. And this is why Amazon is blown up the way it has, because we want it to come to our house. We don't want to have to go to the store. We don't have to want to go anywhere. We want stuff to come right to us. This is why we like fast food, although we know fast food is not good for us. We know it's killing us. We know that it's not organic. We know that it is, listen to me, it is literally killing people. But we would still take it. We would still go to McDonald's because we know that we can get it quickly. We can still go to Wendy's because we know that it'll get it quickly. We know that we'll go to Burger King and we'll get it, and then we go to Chick-fil-A because it's the fastest drive-through, and so we love it. We like the Popeyes chicken sandwich, but we like Chick-fil-A better because it's quicker. Because you go in, and in a few minutes you drive around and you pick up what you're looking for. And we look at God sometimes the same way. We're expecting the promises and the manifestation of things from God to come quickly, and when they don't, we lose hope. We get in despair. We get frustrated. Our hope is lost. But what I've come to tell you today is, even though it's been delayed, it's going to come to pass. That it's going to come right in time. Everything you're believing God for, everything you're trusting God for, is going to come at the appointed time that God Himself has set for it to come. So I want you to take a moment again. I want you to share. I'm going to talk through some other scriptures that we've been using lately to talk about. We talked about, as a matter of fact, I think Monday, this next podcast today is going to come out, and it's about Abraham. And we really look at Abraham's life. We look at how God actually takes him through different processes and takes him through different phases. And then on Monday, we're releasing one on Joseph and about the prophetic promise in Joseph's life and how God promised him certain things. And sometimes, again, it can seem like it's taking longer than it should. But the thing that we got to know is that when God prophesies it's going to come to pass. I even remember, as a matter of fact, think about it. I remember when, even in David's life, David was ordained, he was anointed by Samuel as king, but he didn't really become the king for many years. He was still a young boy at the time that he was actually anointed by Samuel. And so sometimes, it's a process of becoming all that we will be so that we can be able to receive the promise and then sustain the promise. Because sometimes in my life, now I'm not talking about your life, but Valora, I've seen where we could get the promise, but we didn't necessarily, the promise wasn't able to be sustained because we didn't have the experience. We thought we were ready. We felt like we were ready. And everything in us said, oh, I'm ready for the promise. I'm ready to receive what God has for me. But the reality is there's times when God is saying, I'm waiting on you to mature so that you can sustain the promise when the time comes.
Absolutely. And even in our waiting, one of the things that's important and is a key is how are you waiting? How are you taking the opportunity that God has given to you to honor Him, to magnify Him, to say, God, I trust you no matter what. And because we know God cannot lie, that means also He cannot fail. So because He can't lie, He cannot fail. So those things are very important. How are you going to wait on God? How are you trusting in Him? In the whole process, what is your position? What is your posture? How are you honoring God in this whole process of waiting? And so those things are important to us. It's important to God because how we wait, it signifies our faith in God, whether we have faith in God, whether we have faith in ourselves, whether we have faith in man. Where is your faith? Because how you wait determines what the level of faith that you're operating in. So it's important that we begin to honor Him and praise Him. God, I trust you no matter what. I was just talking to someone earlier today, and they had an amazing about 3 weeks ago, and then they ran into some challenges on their job. The supervisor was coming at them from left and right and saying all kind of things that literally was not true. And so I said, He's the same God today as He was 3 weeks ago. He's the same God. So you got to know that you can't be moved because something comes up. The enemy is going to come to try you. That's who he is. That's what he does. But you've got to know that greater is He that's on the inside of you than anything that could ever come come against you. So in that process, you've got to remember what God has done. You've got to remember his faithfulness. You got to remember there is a cloud of witnesses that are saying he's still faithful. He did it for me. He's going to do it for you. Continue to stand. Continue to endure. Don't give up. Don't let your fear overtake your faith. But you've got to put your faith above your fear.
You know, something you said that I thought was very interesting is, you know, we don't. I love natural analogies because natural analogies help us to see things in ways that are clearer than we can understand. So imagine waiting in line at the bank, or waiting in line at the in a waiting room. And so you're in the waiting room, but what you said was so valuable is that how you operate in the waiting room can determine whether or not you actually get into the place of promise. Because with the children of Israel, one of the things that they did was in their waiting room when they had been released from Egypt, before they entered into the promised land, what they did was they complained, they murmured, they remembered the past, and they didn't appreciate what God had done for them and was doing for them and was about to do for them. So as a result, what happened is their murmuring and their complaining caused them to die in their waiting room. Jesus. And so what you don't want to do is you don't want to die in your waiting room. You know, I look at it, and you know, that's a natural analogy, and we talk about the waiting room, but when I looked at it and thought about it, I thought about if you were in the doctor's office waiting to go into the doctor's office, and you start cutting up in the waiting room, they may ask you to leave. They may call the police and ask the police to escort you out of there because you did not conduct yourself well in the waiting room. Right. And so it's a natural analogy, but the reality is true. Some people have not, they got a promise from God, they stood at the altar, it was prophesied, and then all of a sudden, for whatever reason, they didn't listen to God, they didn't hear God, they didn't stay in the right place, and as a result, it caused them to miss the manifestation of the prophetic promise that they have for their life. Not that God didn't promise them, not that it wasn't God's initial plan to give it to them, not that they hadn't waited a certain place and time, but because they gave up too soon, or they got out of place too soon, or they got distracted too soon, or they got deceived too soon, or they did something that caused them to forfeit. And sometimes I think God lets us wait just long enough to see how we're going to trust him, even when it looks like it's not coming. You know, even when it was Abraham and Sarah. And so Abraham, Sarah, God tells Abraham, and Abraham kind of is like a little challenged by it later on. Sarah is sitting there, and they had this angelic visitors, and it was actually God, what I guess they call a theophany, which was a pre-incarnate manifestation of God. And so as any result, so she's standing there, and they begin to tell her, oh, you're getting ready to have a baby, and she laughs. And so they eventually called the baby Isaac. They call him Laughter, because Sarah laughed. And so, that was a reminder of her, in my opinion. If it had been me, it had been a reminder to her that you don't never laugh at God, because God always, when God tells you something, it doesn't matter how outrageous it seems, how crazy it seems, how impossible it seems, and then it doesn't matter how long you've got to wait, God is going to bring to pass every prophetic promise that he has for your life. Everything that he said he's going to do, he's going to do it. Amen. Somebody said praise accelerates your labor pains. Yes. Wow. I believe it can. I believe that as you praise God, you celebrate God, you honor God, you magnify God, you lift him up, he causes an acceleration of the things that you're believing for.
Today, as a matter of fact, I left this morning. I was going to an appointment, and it actually wasn't a scheduled appointment. It was kind of like a walk-in appointment. So I get there, and they say, well, you're number 5, and I'm not exactly sure when you'll be called, but it may take until like 12:30. So I got there about 8:15. So before I went, I said, God, I need favor. I need you to already go before me with favor with men so I can get in and get out. Well, as I'm sitting there, a gentleman comes in, and his name had been called, but he was over an hour late. And when they said to him, you're over an hour late, so we're going to have to put you kind of wherever. And he said, I'm not willing to wait. So because he was not willing to wait, they called my name. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes you have to be in a place where you're a little bit uncomfortable, But God has a plan, and he'll accelerate some things. He'll open a door for you, but you have to be willing to wait. You have to be willing to sometimes be uncomfortable. And then there was someone that came in and they said, I'm willing to wait. However long it takes, I'll wait. And so we have to begin to look at that. Are you willing to wait? Are you willing to endure? And sometimes God will intentionally delay some things so that we can understand and know how we respond to things. In your waiting, are you waiting impatiently? Are you waiting and you're angry at God, or you're angry at the situation? In your waiting, do you blame other people because you're having to wait? Are you saying, God, teach me what I need to learn while I'm waiting, so that I don't have to repeat this again, and I can flow with how you flow, that I'm not behind you, I'm not trying to go ahead of you, but I'm right there with you, and you're walking with me, and you're leading me and guiding me in the way that I should go.
That's very important, because as you were saying, and I thought about a couple of different people that were waiting from God, and in their waiting, they made some mistakes. Again, we talk about the children of Israel. They got out of the place of really honoring God, of believing God, of trusting God. And sometimes we can do that. Again, sometimes your promise can take so long coming to pass that you can literally think that God has forgotten you, God has given up on you, God is not going to do what he said he was going to do. But what I found over my time and over my life is that God is faithful, and that no matter how long it takes or what it looks like or what it feels like, the God that we serve is going to bring every prophetic promise to pass, and it's going to happen right on time. It's going to happen in the timing of God. I understand that it looked like, it felt like, it seemed like everything about you looked like it was not going to happen on time, but because God is who he is, he operates outside of time. So when we're getting impatient thinking, God, what are you doing? Why is it taking you so long? God says, I'm right on time. I know when you're going to be ready. It's almost like fruit on a tree. If you take the fruit off of the tree before the time, it can literally be poisonous to the person that's eating it. Likewise, if it stays on there too long. So God knows how to get you off right in time, how to release your promise right in time, because he understands what it's going to look like for you to be premature, and he knows what it's going to look like for you to be overtime, because then he knows that you'll spoil on the vine. So he understands exactly what timing you need, exactly what you need to be able to do. And so the best thing for us to do is just thank God that God knows and has our best interests in mind. Let me give you this last one and we're getting out of here. But I was just like you had a situation on last night. I got an email, and so there was an interview that I was supposed to do probably next month sometime, later on in this month, next month sometime. And so I said, I was just sitting there, just waiting on them to call me back and tell me when it was. Well, same thing happened. They sent me an email last night. This was about 9:00, and they said, "Are you available tomorrow for an interview for this radio thing?" And so they said, "Are you available because somebody else canceled and you were the first person that came up?" And so God knows how to really put you in the right place at the right time, and for your promotion and for your blessing. But you just got to maintain the right posture before God. You got to maintain the right position in the natural and in the spirit, and have the right posture, the right mindset, the right thought process. Come on, your spirit has got to be right, because God knows when to take you out of your waiting room and call your name, because you're next in line for your miracle. You're next in line for the manifestation of your prophetic promise. You're next in line to receive the things that God said belong to you. Amen. And so you got to know that. You got to stand on that. You got to trust in that. You got to know that God favors you. God loves you. God knows your name. He knows exactly when your name is supposed to be called, and he knows everything about what he is going to do for you and what he's assigned to happen in your life. Amen. Sometimes, again, it does not always feel like that. It does not always look like that. Our circumstance can look completely contrary to what God said, but I've come to tell you today, we came to tell you that God is so faithful, and he is so amazing, and he is so in control of everything that pertains to you, that at the appointed time, that there is nothing in the earth, nothing in hell, nothing anywhere in the world that can stop the manifestation of God coming. Let me give you this last little piece, and then I'm gonna get out of here. I'm gonna give you a spoiler alert. We went to go see this movie. I won't even tell you what movie it was. We went to go see a movie, and in this movie, there was a pilot who had gone out to fight in a fight, and so everybody else had the fight was tough, it was intense. A lot of pilots actually passed away in the fight. They got shot down, and so as a result, there was this one pilot, and they were looking for him. His friend. I mean, it was like hours after everybody else came in, and so the guy was getting ready to actually go in, and he said, "I'm done." He said, "I'm going in. I'm going into my bunker, going into wherever he was going into inside the ship." And at that moment, he hears this plane, and it's like it's about to sputter, like it's about to cut off. And he looks up into the sky, and he sees his friend coming in, and he got so excited, and he has so much joy because he was believing for that friend to come in. Simultaneously, the wife of that pilot was actually had walked into a house, and they said, "Do we have any good news about the pilots?" And so when they said that, now, in my opinion, in my rendering of the story, when she said, "I need a moment to go powder my nose." If I was hurt, and when I didn't have any news, I'd have been in there praying. I'd have been praying to God. I'd have been on my face. I'd have been like, "God, I know your promise for me. I know what you told me is going to come to pass. I'm standing on your word. I'm patient. I believe you, and I'm standing in it. I know that you're faithful. I know what you promised me. My children would see my husband come home. I know when he left that he was coming back. And so I'm standing on the promises. I'm believing you for the promises. I know that you're faithful." See, that's another thing that you do when you're waiting. In the meantime, you begin to pray to God, and you begin to continue to wage a good warfare through prayer and believing God and confessing. Don't you let the enemy make you doubt when you don't see your prophetic promise coming to pass. No, you prophesy to it. You speak to it. You decree to it. You declare to it. You keep speaking to it until you see the manifestation of it come to pass. Amen. And so I looked at that thing, and I was like, my God. And so all of a sudden he sees it sputter, and then some of the equipment wasn't even working right. And so it looked like it wasn't going to come to pass. Are you listening to me? But then he had prepared at another time and in another season for what if everything doesn't work right when it's time to land. And all of a sudden he lands, and they look at him. He said, "Man, I was so glad to see you." Let me tell you something. You're going to be so glad when that prophetic promise comes to pass, because God is faithful to bring to pass everything that belongs to you. Then all of a sudden his wife sees him. They had to push him in a wheelchair because he had some things going on. Listen to what I'm telling you. If your promise has to come in the wheelchair, if your promise has to come on, and barely make it, and whatever else, God's going to make sure it comes, because it doesn't matter what it looks like, it's coming. And all you got to do is hold on and know that God is faithful concerning his promise. Amen. God's going to make that thing come to pass. If it has to be like that one guy, listen, he sputters in there. His plane is almost ready to cut off when he finally lands, but baby, he landed. Come on, somebody. And not only did he land, but then he actually walked back into and saw his wife. He came through the gate in his wheelchair, and he stood up and hugged her. And I know she had flashbacks of all the other husbands who didn't make it back, but she made it back, but he made it back. And I come to tell you, your prophetic promise is the same way. Everything that God told you is going to come to pass is going to come to pass. It doesn't matter what it looks like or what it feels like. It's going to come to pass. Well, we got to get out of here. We love you. We bless you. And we're looking forward to talking with you guys again soon. Tune in tomorrow. We'll do some more on this. But again, we love you. We bless you. And we thank God for you. All right. Listen, go get our podcast and check out that podcast. And don't forget to review it, because it's going to bless your life. I believe that these prayers and these prophetic declarations and these decrees will bless your life if you take them and apply them to your life. Amen.
Well, if you're in the Macon area, this Saturday, it's this Saturday. If you're be there, well, if you're in the area, join us for the Fearless Women luncheon, so you can get more information on our website. God bless.
Thank you.
Did you know your voice was meant to be fearless? Well, if you're a mother, a daughter, a sister, or a friend, I am super excited to announce the Fearless Women Global Movement is coming to Macon, Georgia. That's November 16, 2019, from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. to join other amazing women for a fearless luncheon. It is called My Voice is Fearless. During this luncheon, you will define your voice, You will discover your voice, and you will make your voice distinct from every other voice. Everyone in attendance will receive 2 special gifts with a chance at other giveaways as we fellowship, have fun, we eat, we interact, we empower each other. It's going to be amazing. To ensure your seat or to become a vendor, go now to our website, www.LaJunValora.com, or go directly to www.LaJunValora.eventbrite.com and register.
Hey, LaJun Valora Cole here, and we are so excited to invite you to tune in to our new podcast on the Charisma Podcast Network. The name of our podcast is Prophetic Moments with LaJun Valora.
We believe that God still speaks today. When you tune into our podcast, our goal is to equip, empower, and encourage you and allow you to understand what your purpose is and what God has said about it and His promise to fulfill His word. Tune in to iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. Like, share, and review our podcast because it allows our podcast to reach more people and to spread the gospel. So if you want more information and you want to grow in your spiritual walk, go to our website, LaJunValora.com, and also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and Periscope under LaJun and Valora. We're so excited to bring God's prophetic moments to you. Did you know God brings people together in a relationship for kingdom purpose? Well, a partnership is a relationship that allows people to come together to accomplish something greater than they would have ever done individually.
At LaJun Valora Cole Ministries, we've been called to empower, equip, and encourage believers around the world with the message of the gospel of Jesus Christ, where we've literally around the world been feeding the hungry and clothing the naked.
Well, your support to LaJun Valora Cole Ministries will allow us to accomplish this assignment. With your decision to partner, you can choose which level of partnership you want to commit to. With each level, you will receive exclusive discounts and gifts just for our partners. Go now to our website, www.LaJunValora.com, to contribute as a one-time partner or be enrolled in our reoccurring monthly gift to LaJun and Valora Cole Ministries.
Thank you so much for your support. We couldn't do what we do without you. Have you ever fought a battle in your mind? Have you ever wrestled with your flesh? Your flesh has proclivities and desires and things that you know are not consistent with your destiny and with your mandate. Well, if you've ever had to fight in spiritual warfare, we've got a course that's just for you. In our next 8 weeks at the Discipleship Training Institute, we're going to deal with the subject of spiritual warfare. And if you would go now and register at www.discipleshipinstitute.org, it will allow you to partake in this course and learn how to become victorious over every assignment and every assault of the enemy that comes against your destiny. Hey guys, LaJun Valora here.
We are super excited to be coming to you Monday through Friday. That's Monday through Friday at 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're here to empower, encourage, and equip you. Please go and follow us on Periscope, YouTube, and Facebook. We're coming at you live. You don't want to miss it. You're going to be empowered. You're going to be equipped, and you certainly will be encouraged. He will take you from where you are and catapult you into a place that you never even imagined being.
The only thing that matters in my mind is that God be with me. And if God be with me, it does not matter who else is against me.